Hey there, farmers. Welcome to your exclusive sneak peek early look at Zynga's first major expansion for FarmVille 2, the Appaloosa River. I'm Jim Squire, the editor-in-chief at Gamezebo.com, and with me today is Daryl Anselmo, the creative director on FarmVille 2. Daryl, good evening.
Hi, how you doing, Jim?
I'm not doing too bad. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Are you excited to show these people something they've been waiting for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we really get into the river as it is, maybe we should learn a little bit about the head farmer in charge, so to speak, Daryl. How do you find yourself coming to work on FarmVille 2?
I joined Zynga about 18 months ago. I came onto FarmVille 2 before we went live. I'm the creative director on the project. The big thing that I'm responsible for really is the look and the feel of the game. I work really closely with our designers and the artists really to help shape the vision and select the ideas that go into FarmVille 2.
Okay, very cool. So you've been around then since day one on FarmVille 2.
Like I said, I came in before it went live. I've been on the project ever since that we went live. I've been working in games for about 18 years, and this is the best team I've ever worked with, and really the best community of players that I've ever seen. So.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. Now, since you've been around so long since the game went live, and that, are there some things you'd kind of pick out as what makes FarmVille 2 really FarmVille 2?
Absolutely. I think, one of the most important things about FarmVille is that, or FarmVille 2, I should say, is that it builds on the classic nature of FarmVille 1. There's sort of one of the things that we really go for in FarmVille 2 is where is this peaceful and sort of bucolic setting. Everything in FarmVille 2 is really based off of nature. It's really based off of this feeling of sort of classic country living, and it's really inspired and set in the 1950s. And so a lot of that feeling is built right into the game, and we put all that love and attention right into the art and the design and the movements. Everything in the game is really really just peaceful and calm. We want players to have a relaxing and calm feeling when they come in and play FarmVille 2.
Sure, absolutely, and it's a game that's certainly kind of grown leaps and bounds over its predecessor, the first FarmVille. What would you say really kind of sets it apart? If anyone's just coming to this and they're hearing about the river, the new expansion, thinking it's a great time to jump into FarmVille 2, what sort of things would a new player to FarmVille 2 find different compared to the first game?
Yeah, I think the thing that we get the most comments on really is the 3D graphics, and that's something that we've is sort of a first for a big social game of this size, and so that goes into the way that we animate our animals and really the life that we put into everything. That's really the main thing that I think players are going to see when they play FarmVille 2.
Oh, okay, sure. No, that makes sense. Now, just as I take a look at it here, and I see the size of what we're kind of showing off today with the river, it seems like the first kind of major expansion, and we had seen major expansions previously in the last FarmVille, but as far as FarmVille 2 goes, yeah, we've seen a lot of in-game events, things like that, but on a large scale, the river seems to be the first big one. Now, what made you guys choose to go with the river?
Well, really to kind of set the stage, there's always really been a stream that's been running down the east side of the farm. We've had a road on the left side of the farm, but on the right side, we've always had this little stream there. And that again, that kind of, there's something special about water and that peaceful, calm kind of vibe. It really reminds me of like being a kid and kind of going to the lake as a kid. And so originally, really, it kind of just started as this simple decoration when we launched the game, and then what happened was we started getting the game out and players were playing it more. What we found is that it really inspired a lot of curiosity, and players started to raise a lot of questions about, well, what could the river be? So the team really started to begin a lot of the conversations really in the spring of this year. And so what we're going to show today is really sort of a culmination of several months of work. So players of FarmVille 2, if you're familiar with the game, you'll know that it's always a work in progress. We're always making improvements and we're always adding new content to the game. So what we're going to show is really a sneak peek of what players will see over the next few weeks as we roll out the river. But really, this is just a start, and it's really based on what our players have really asked for.
Oh, okay. So then, since it's based on what your players have asked for, would you say that the river kind of came about in response to player demand, or as you said, the river was kind of along the side there since launch day one? Is this something that kind of slowly but surely you've been working towards as an idea since day one?
Yeah, like I said, the stream has always kind of been there, but the conversations with the team really began in the spring, and that's when we started to expand on it and really build it out into the features that I'm about to show today.
Okay, terrific. Well, why don't we take a look at some of those features then and see what's on the horizon?
Sure. So just sort of diving right in, the story of the river really is now in FarmVille 2. In the world, it's close to the end of the summer season, and the rains have begun to pick up, and so the Appaloosa River is starting to overflow. This is actually a good thing for you as a farmer. It's an opportunity for you to expand your farm out to the river and use the space in new and exciting ways that are actually going to be quite profitable for you as a farmer as well.
So it's better than a real flood.
What's that?
It's better than a real flood for a farmer then.
So the first thing that you'll see here is the dock expansion, and what you can do is just click to unlock that. And we've got an opportunity to expand to the river early. And one of the things that players will notice earlier to this too is that we've actually eased the requirements to expand in the direction of the river. And so tomorrow and throughout the week, what this really is an early opportunity to get a head start on the river. So what you'll see here is that you'll get a white water buffalo, an albino water buffalo. This is one of the first of our water animals in Farm 2. There's also two decorations. So there's the leisurely liner, which is like kind of a cool boat. There's also a cattail bouquet. And one thing to really note is that the albino water buffalo and the leisurely liner, these are exclusive limited edition items, and this is the only way to get them is through the early access. But what you really want is the early river access to get you a head start on clearing that space, so that next week when we roll out our next feature, you'll be able to start getting started on farming on the water, which is the first sort of big feature that we're going to start rolling out next week.
Okay, that's great. And early access begins tomorrow. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I'm sure everyone who's watching right now will be eager to jump into that then. Great.
So one of the things that you'll notice right off the bat too is when I'm ready to expand to the river, what players are used to originally is that the goats will come and clear out that space. But now what's going to happen is that we've introduced the water buffaloes, and so the water buffaloes come and they clear out that space, and then they take off as well.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I see them running off right there. That's adorable. That's great. Okay. So once what we see here kind of unfolds, will there be new crops? What sort of things are we going to see?
So why don't we just dive right into the next thing?
Sure, absolutely. Let me just take a quick look here. Sorry, my apologies.
Right. Okay, so the first thing that players are going to start to see next week is that we've got water crops, and so you can rake water crops directly into the plots directly into the river, just like you would with dry plots on land. So one thing that I should probably point out here too, Jim, is while the early access is something that a lot of players might want to get because of the exclusive buffalo and also the boat, the other thing to sort of keep in mind too is that really the early access next week when players log in and they start to play the farm, what they're actually going to get is they're going to get this expansion for free. So we're giving that to players.
Oh, okay, that's terrific.
So going back to the water crops right now, one of the cool things about it is that you can, like I said, you can rake water plots directly into the river just like you would on land.
Okay.
Really special. They grow special crops that you can't grow on land. And so next week, what we're going to do is we're actually going to launch 4 new water crops. And that's just a start. We're going to introduce more as time goes on. And you can put 6 plots down per any one of the acres that you add to the river. And we've got some really cool crops. So we've got wasabi. We've got some Indian lotus. We've got cranberries. I'll lay down a couple of cranberries right now too, so you can sort of see what that looks like. Now, one thing, I'll just stop it right there for a second. One thing that's really cool about this, and I think that players are really going to love, is the fact that when you lay down the water crops, they don't actually take water. So it's a lot different than farming on the land. You'll see that instead of laying down a seed pack and then it turning into seeds and then you needing to water it, they immediately water. And I think that that's something that players are really going to love.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That'll definitely help them save an important resource there. That's great. That's great. Now, just out of curiosity, especially when I see the four you're introducing today, or the four that will be introduced, my apologies, coming next week. Do you guys get the chance to taste test a bit of everything, just sort of as research? Do they bring that in? Do you have great catering for this sort of thing?
Yeah, we've always got Zynga's got a fantastic cafe, and we're always trying all the new food. We actually go on excursions every once in a while to try and research and try all the different types of foods that actually go into FarmVille 2 and inspire a lot of the recipes that players see.
Oh, lucky! That sounds delicious. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just point out one thing. What you'll notice too is that I'll just plant down some wasabi here and some lotus flowers too. There's actually 12 water plots here, and so for every acre of land that that a player will unlock, what they'll do is they'll see 6 plots, and so I've got 12, which is the maximum for the two. Something else that's like really cool about this is that you can fertilize them just like you would any other land crop. And
Okay.
what's interesting about that too is I think players that are interested in the county fair and are playing that part of the game, and then in addition to that too, the fact that as you're playing it and as you use fertilizer, I'll just Instagrow these so that you can see it. Something that's cool about that is that you get extra yield for every time that you use fertilizer, and the same thing applies to water farming as well. So
Oh, okay.
cranberries out. One of the things that you'll notice is that they come out of the ground in sort of or come out of the water, I should say, in a different way. And they're going into a little building over here on the side, and that's I'll show you what that is in a second. That's our crop dryer. So what happens is I pull out the wet crops, they go into the crop dryer. I click on the crop dryer to fire it up. There's a cute little animation there. People that are familiar with the feed making machine, the crop dryer is very similar. So it's kind of a one-click deal. The wet crops are locked up. I then unlock them through the crop dryer, and now I can get access. I can take those wet crops and I can turn them into feed. I can sell them in the market, or I can craft them into profitable recipes. And that's something that are design goals for the water farming. Felt really special, felt really profitable, and that players were really going to get more out of this. So we see that the water farming and wet crops are going to be a really, really important part of the game. So here's just a simple tutorial. You plant and harvest your water crops. Wet crops will automatically go to the crop dryer, and then you click once on each of them, and what'll happen is you'll get access to them, and then you can use them in all the ways that you could with any dry crops as well.
Great. Now, yeah, I was going to say then with the crafting itself, then when you're doing recipes and whatnot, will they be a mix of the formerly wet now dry crops and the older crops, or will they basically be like all wet ingredients and all dry ingredients in separate recipes?
We've got all sorts of mixes of recipes, and let me take you through a few of them right now too. So, we've got kind of a mix of a bunch of them. Here's a cranberry muffin, for example. So this is using eggs and flour as well. It's a simple batter staple recipe that I think a lot of players are familiar with muffins. So it's just cranberries plus batter. It creates a cranberry muffin. That's one of the more simple, basic recipes that we've got in the game. We've got other things. We've got other staples like sugared cranberry. So I'll just make a couple of those. So that's cranberries plus sugar. That'll make cranberry sugar, and I can sell those in the market. Those are really nice, profitable recipes. We got some more exotic recipes. We've got wasabi nuts, wasabi dressing, which mixes wasabi paste. There's a couple of staples as well. So things like wasabi paste that I just touched upon. There's rice flour. There's lotus paste, and then we've also got some like really cool recipes too. More exotic things like wasabi dressing, wasabi rice chips, lotus bun. The lotus buns are really great, and I think players are really going to get a lot of. I'll go into the market right now and I'll sell a few of these right now, and you can sort of see that these are going to be a great addition to the game.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was going to ask then. I guess value-wise, they're certainly going to hold up compared to existing recipes, eh?
I actually one of our design goals, like I was mentioning, was to make those really profitable for players. And so what we're still working out the final numbers on it, but I think players will be really happy with the way that the water crop recipes turn out.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic. Now, just to take it back for a moment, just before we were discussing the crafting there, you had mentioned we'll be getting the albino water buffalo with the early access tomorrow. Once the early access is passed, are we going to see many other animals on the horizon, or?
Absolutely, and like I said, the river is really we're starting out with the water buffalo, and I've got something else that I'll show you in a second too.
Mhm.
I think just kind of rewinding a little bit, there's one final part that I wanted to show when it came to the water recipes, um,
Okay.
and water farming, and then we'll dive right into the
Oh
animals.
yeah, no, please, yes.
So, players of the county fair, again, I didn't pull up any prize crops originally, but when I showed this, but now what you can see is earlier in an earlier session, I did pull up 3 prize cranberries, and I did pull up a prized Indian lotus. So one of the big advantages of playing the river is that now you have access to even more crops that are going to give you an edge, and so it's going to be really really valuable for those players that are playing the county fair. So.
Oh, that's great. Very cool.
So yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. So okay, sorry, as I take a look down my list of questions here, I just yeah, I was really curious about the animal situation there we were just discussing. So as you said, you're just about to show us something here. It looks like.
Yeah, I guess we can just sort of switch right into that. So one of the things that we've got in the game now, and this is something that players have been asking for a long, long time. It's one of the most popular animals in FarmVille 1. It's part of the classic FarmVille image, and we wanted to get it right. We wanted to do it right, and so now we finally got ducks going into FarmVille 2. And so you can
Terrific.
now we've got a couple of baby ducks. One of the things that's really cool about it is you'll see that not only do they swim on the water, but they also work on land. So they'll walk around and waddle around in sort of a cute way. Here I've got a couple of babies. You can sort of see a more grown-up duck over there on the side. Here's a grown-up wood duck as well. So.
And it looks like the ducks are the only ones who won't be on land and swimming. I saw our character there just dive right in too, eh?
He'll he or she, I should say. We have a lot of women that love playing FarmVille too. The characters, there's shallow water and there's deep water, and he'll go out for a little swim as well, which is a lot of fun. The animators really saw this as like a labor of love for the game, and really that extends to the entire team. It's something that's really a lot of fun.
Sure, absolutely. I was seeing there as you kind of pick them up and drop them back in there. There's just a fantastic animation where they kind of sploosh right in the water.
Yeah, it's animation's actually a really important part of the feeling of FarmVille 2. What I'm actually showing right now is kind of a behind the scenes look. We like I said, 3D graphics and is a really really big part of FarmVille 2. It's part of what the appeal of the game and what creates a lot of the strong emotions that players have for and affinity that players have for the animals. And so here's the duck. Doing some water. I was just showing him walk around there a little bit too. And here he is again. One thing that's really interesting about our ducks and our animals in general. Oh, here's the baby. It's pretty cute. And, kind of, I think people that know about rubber duckies will kind of see some influences in there.
Oh, cute.
I was actually going to say, and I'll kind of I'll rewind a little bit so we can go back to the adult. One of the things about FarmVille 2 is that all of our animals, or most of our animals, I should say, are actually based on the female versions. And so you'll notice that like all of our cows have udders. They're the female versions of cows. We don't have bulls in the game yet. And also on top of that, we've got all the chickens in the game are hens, so we haven't had a rooster yet. The ducks, what you'll notice is that the ducks are actually males, and we also did that with turkeys, and we did that with peacocks earlier as well. So the reason for that was that the male versions of these animals, ducks and turkeys and peacocks, they're a lot more colorful, they're a lot more ornamental, and we kind of felt like that was something that was also really, really important to the world. A lot of people comment on the color of FarmVille 2 and how important that is. And we kind of felt like as we were going through the process of designing all of the various ducks and again going back to turkeys and peacocks, that we decided to deviate and go with the male versions here. So what you're actually seeing here is a mallard drake. It's not a duck, or hen, I should say, which is what they're also called. And this one's really interesting too. This will be available for coins in the marketplace, so this won't be something that's we've got a variety of ducks that we're adding to the game. We're going to start with 4, and the mallard's one of them. I showed you the wood duck a little bit earlier too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually over 40 breeds of ducks in the world when we were doing our research, and so it was really impressive when we went through and sort of made our final selections for what was going to end in the game. We learned a lot about ducks. So
very cool. Now the animations, they just seem really natural, really cool. Was there anything specific that you guys were modeling the animations for the ducks on?
Yeah. So one of the things that our animation team does when we're putting animals in the game and when we're creating the animations for them is the first kind of, we do it in layers, and sort of the first layer that we look at is we study real life video reference, and we've gone on. I actually have a funny story. I live here in the Bay Area, and I've got a pool in my backyard, and last summer, what happened was I get up in the morning, and there was actually 2 ducks that would just be in our pool in the backyard, and it was kind of this like weird Tony Soprano moment. And it was interesting because they kind of became like, I've got kids, and they kind of became like friends of the kids, and the kids loved them, and I kind of thought that they were cute and they were interesting, and I started to study them and learn more about ducks and really kind of grow fond of the ducks that showed up in our backyard. And anyway, so real life experience and sort of drawing from real life reference is kind of one of the layers that we build into the animations that you see, that players will see in FarmVille 2. And then another layer is if we just studied reality, it'll come out a certain way. But what we like to do is put a little bit of fun and put a little bit more personality and pizzazz into the animals. And you'll sort of notice that there's sort of a lot of fun in all the animals. So the cows, the goats, and with the ducks, one of the layers that we tried to put in and into their personalities was we were kind of looking at like at comedians, because if you kind of go back and through the history of animals and entertainment, ducks are sort of the most funniest animals. And so we kind of looked at comedians as we were doing this, and we kind of went back to there's a Canadian comedian that we really like called Martin Short, and so there's a little bit of his personality that's like blended in as we were there he is, Ed Grimley, creating the ducks for FarmVille 2. So
that's very cool. That's great. And really, I mean, if anyone really wants to see Ed Grimley, while you're waiting for the ducks to be added, go look up SCTV. It's probably on Netflix. You'll love it. But, okay. Sorry. So as I take a look here through my notes, I do see that we also have a number of audience questions that were submitted over the last few days to Zynga through the Facebook page. Would you feel like taking a look at some of those, Daryl?
yeah, I would love to.
That would be great. Okay, so the first question we have here, and actually it's a very good question, is will the river be a time-limited event, or is it kind of a feature that's here to stay for FarmVille 2?
So the river will not be a time-limited event. The river is something that it's an expansion. It's an addition to the board. We're seeing it as something that is going to become a really, really nice addition to the core of FarmVille 2, and it's going to be something that's going to be there for years to come.
Okay. Now, you've dubbed, it's not just dubbed the river, as I've seen a few people kind of mentioning it as online, but it's actually the Appaloosa River. So why Appaloosa?
Okay. That's a great question. There's a horse in FarmVille 2, and it was actually the very first horse that we put in the game, and it's called the Appaloosa horse. And the Appaloosa horse is a really it's got an interesting story behind it. It's an American reference. There's actually a river in Washington State called the Palouse River. And when the settlers saw sort of some of the wild horses that were native to the Palouse River, they started calling them the Palouse horse. And through slang, it became Appaloosa horse, and so it was kind of like related to the idea of the Palouse River and the story of the Appaloosa horse, and that really kind of drew the inspiration and the connection that we thought was would be a lot of fun.
Well, that's great. I love how it all ties together like that. That's really cool. Okay. Next question I have here. I think we've partly answered this one through the course of the evening here, but still, there's some angles to this that we can definitely touch on. Water has always played an important role in FarmVille too. You use it to grow crops, you use it in certain recipes, and now you have this body of water running through your farm. So the question is, how will the river affect the existing water mechanic in the game?
Right. Great question. And that's something that we're going to continually be looking at. So the first part of that has to really do with the fact that we've got the water crops themselves don't require water to grow. And that's the biggest part of that equation to start with. I think that there's a really good natural connection between the water, the well system, the way that the river works. And we're always going to be looking at making improvements to the game system. And so, keep playing. We may have some secrets in there for you in the coming months.
Perfect. Now, actually, we also have a few questions here about how to unlock the river. So, first question we have is: will players need to unlock other expansions before they can access this one?
So when players come in, we're actually making and like players in the past couple of weeks have probably noticed that we've eased the requirements to get to the edge of the river. And when players come in next week, if they haven't got there, they'll have they'll have the opportunity to get that for free. And so we really want to make water farming a really important part of the core of FarmVille too, and we're making it as easy as possible to get there, and so that many of our players will be able to enjoy it. So there is one requirement, and that's that it's a level 15 requirement. So any players that get to level 15 will be able to enjoy the river.
Okay, perfect. And anyone who's not there yet, now they have something to work towards. Great. Now, this one's kind of a two-parter, and I think you sort of answered it in the last question, but if we kind of look at it in terms of the early access, how much will it cost to unlock the river? So I guess in terms of early access, and then once you're past that, once you're into the actual game, and it's, as you said, it's free to get through to the expansions to it, but then what will the requirements be?
So the early access, which is coming out, which players will have the opportunity for tomorrow. The package is coming out. That includes the limited edition albino water buffalo. It also includes the boat. It includes the ability to get early access to the river. I don't know what the final cost of that is. I think we're still working it out, but it's discounted, and so
Okay.
I believe it's under $100 right now.
Okay. And now this is just kind of the second part to that question that a few people were asking. In the past, some people have felt that the expansions were just, they're kind of pricey. And I'm sure that's a subject of contention that does come up from time to time. So I'm just wondering if you can explain a bit about the decision-making process that goes on when you do add expansions and things like that, and when there is land to unlock, sort of how that tiered structure is created.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jim, and it's something that comes up a lot from our players. Is just the amount of challenge that it's taking to sort of get to some of the expansions, and so we're constantly looking at that. We're always looking at ways to balance the requirements for getting space, and also we don't want to make it too easy, because then players don't have players won't feel a challenge, and it's not fun. And so it's always a constant line that we're trying to ride in order to give the best play experience for as many players as we possibly can. So lately, what we've been hearing really is again space. We want space, and so that's something that we're giving. Like I said, we've eased the requirements on Camarillo County. We're also making it very easy. I think players will be very, very happy with the requirements for especially the first two water acres that we're opening up for them, and this is something that we're always looking at and always trying to just provide the best experience for the players.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Now, speaking, I mean, obviously, the entire expansion is water-based, water-themed, and leading up to this event, there's kind of been speculation on what that might really mean for Farmville 2, what sort of things might be introduced. And a lot of the questions that came in were along those lines. Now, you sort of covered what's already in the works for the Appaloosa River, what people can expect from it. But forward thinking, right? That's always what comes down the road with the different updates, different changes in that. Got to ask if any of this is on your mind here, seeing as your players are definitely just as curious as I am. So, first question: are there any thoughts about maybe adding fishing?
So that's another great question. So the offering that we've got right out of the gate for the river, we're starting off with water farming, and then we've also got the ducks, and we've got the water buffalo. That's step one. Fishing has been a really hot topic, and we're always listening to our players about what they love, what they want, what they don't want. It's kind of, we want to make sure that when we do fishing, that we would do it right. And we want to make sure that we get a lot of feedback from players about animals and how much of an emotional connection that players make with the animals and how much they kind of love the animals in the game. And we want to make sure that we're always treating the animals fairly. And so fishing is kind of one of those points of we want to make sure that we're not doing it wrong. What you'll never see in Farmville 2 is the ability to get fish and then turn them into cook them and turn them into recipes. So that's something that we don't want to go down, because a lot of players have kind of voiced strong opinions about that, and we want to honor that. So we're still thinking about fishing and how that would tie into Farmville 2. And like I said, when the time comes, we're going to make sure that we do it right.
Okay, no, that makes perfect sense. And then I guess the second part to the question, then on the same fishing note, someone had asked about fish farming, which I guess you pretty much just answered. You'd never, pull them out, cook them, and this and that. But in commercial fishing, it seems like there are some places where fish farms are fairly common nowadays. And just in the back of my head, I can just picture these water crops that are just little fishies swimming around in the same square. I suppose that's not on the menu then.
Yeah, we wouldn't fishing that way.
Understood. No worries. So we've had more than a few questions about swimming. Obviously, we've seen that, so that's a definite yes. Let me see here. But boats would be another question that a lot of people have asked about. Now, I see you have a decorative boat. Is that the sort of thing we're going to see more of?
That's where we're starting. So the decorative boat, the boat decoration is the first thing that and again, players will have access to it this week as part of the early unlock. So there's a limited edition boat. There is more decoration coming down the horizon as well in the coming weeks, and so boats will be on the menu. Absolutely. The other thing to note too is that, and I sort of forgot to mention this earlier, so it's a great opportunity to do it. One thing about Farmville 2 is that, and I'll scroll over here, the road down here that runs on the west side of the farm, there's all sorts of vehicles that come down here and characters and traffic that are part of the road. And if you'll notice too, the way that we've done the art for the river is going down the east side. There's actually a channel that runs all the way down the side here too. And so there's Marie and Gus and a lot of the townsfolk of Farmville 2, they're going to be appearing through here and sort of giving bulletins and news and introducing new things to the game through the river itself. And they've got their own boats, and we've got some funny surprises in there too. So I'd really encourage players to stay tuned for that.
Oh, very cool. So there will be boats in the more so than just decorative. That's very cool. Now, one farmer asked, and you know what? You gotta ask. If they don't ask you, you'll never be able to deliver, right? So, what one farmer has asked if they can have a yacht that they can do interior design on.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet. We're working on. It's great question. Again, if it's something that we're always looking to the community, we're always looking to our players and what they're passionate about. And I think, like I said, we haven't gotten to a yacht that you can sort of click on and decorate out and get interior design on. But like I said, we've got a couple of different boats that are going to be part of the game that you can, help that you can decorate your farm with, and that's just the start.
Very cool. Now, just stepping back for a moment here, we had a little while ago discussed how at this point in time the water is basically there. the advantage of it is that it will feed river crops without having to actually use outside water, but that at this time it's not a resource that you're gathering. Who knows what the future might hold? But other resources on the river. Someone had a fairly interesting question. They said, there's always driftwood in the river where I come from. Can we get driftwood to help with the wood count?
So that's an awesome question, and I'm actually really happy that somebody asked that question because while I can't get into the details of it, there is something coming in the month of September that is going to, I think, really make that person happy.
That's great.
I don't mean to. There's a certain amount that I can reveal and a certain amount that I can talk.
Sure.
But that is a fantastic question, and like I said, that person's going to be pretty excited when they see one of the features that's coming down in the month of September.
Nice. Well, if that was a good question, you'll like this other one because it's actually from the same player. Really, it's just a question about the sound design, I suppose. They asked, "Do we get to hear any frogs croak their enchanting call?" Which I guess the bigger question then is, what sort of sounds are we going to hear introduced because of the river?
The frogs or something. I think I'll just key in on that for a second. You'll notice in the loading screen, the artist created this wonderful image of Gus and Marie hanging out on the dock. I don't know if we can show that right now, but actually it was part of the original load for this stream. Players will notice in the bottom right hand corner of that image that there is a frog in the bottom, and we've got kind of a special secret in the game, and players will have to find out exactly how to get the frog to show up because it's kind of a hidden, we call it an Easter egg in games, so it's kind of a hidden Easter egg that we'll be putting in there. It won't be part of the immediate launch, so players will have to wait a couple of weeks for it, but frogs are going to sound pretty great, so
that's terrific.
Yep.
That's terrific. Now, there was one question that wasn't about the river. There were many, but there was one that really stood out, and I can't not ask. This player asked, "My pigs look tasty. Is there any way I can cook the pigs?"
Right. So that question, I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier when we were talking about fishing. Overwhelmingly, and this is one of the key staples of FarmVille 2, and part of the reason why we have so many players that come back and play the game and love the game, is that we get a lot of really positive feedback on how lifelike the animals are, and people really have grown to have an affinity towards the animals and really like them and adore them and have, like I said, strong emotional connections. One of the rules that we kind of that we follow creatively with the team is that we're very sensitive to that, and there's no barbecuing meat, there's no slaughtering animals in the world of FarmVille 2. We just think that really takes away from that bucolic, peaceful, loving feeling that players get when and sort of the fantasy of living the good life in the countryside. I think that is creatively we've kind of taken a hard stance on that, and that's just
Sure.
that we're not going to be doing. So I'm sorry to say for that player, they're not going to ever really see bacon in FarmVille 2 anytime soon.
Fair enough. And just a last question, I suppose. This is more or less one that's coming from our audience right now on Twitch TV. As I look over at the chat window, I just see it coming up over and over and over. Any chance for crocodiles and alligators? Because they seem to want to know.
So we, if players are going to ask for it, like I said, this is something that it's your game. We're here to curate it. We're here to do what the players are passionate about. Let me tell you a story. There's one of our lead producers on the title. Over and over and over again is always asking about gators, and if it's something that we're going to put in the game, again, it's got to be something that the players demand, and it's something that we want to do right. So we want those to be friendly. We would never do something that endangers our other animals in the game, and something that there's enough player demand for. It's something that we can look into.
I hear you. So predatory animals might be off the list. Understood. Okay, so Daryl, I suppose the last question then for the day, we're out of user questions, unfortunately. There were some great ones, but if we went through the thousands we got, we'd be here all night. But now that the soft launch is around the corner there, the early launch tomorrow, and shortly thereafter, people will be able to jump in. What's next for FarmVille 2 players after this?
Yeah, great question. So right now, the big focus again, it's on this week. We're going to start to roll out the early access to the river. Next week is water crops. Beyond that, we've got a full September palette of river months. So we're going to continue to expand on the river through the month of September, and we want to make sure that the feedback is really pouring in. I'd just like to take the opportunity as well to remind players that once you get to level 15, and starting next week, that again, this area of the game is completely and totally free, and so again, we think that water farming and water crops and being a part of getting ducks on the farm, these are all things that we're focused on immediately, and that's what players are going to see. Beyond that, a few of the things that we're looking at. Obviously, October is the month of Halloween, so we're looking at rolling out a Halloween program, and then taking things. We've got a solid roadmap taking us all the way through into the holidays, and beyond. And then beyond that, really, we really want the players to get active in the forums, tell us what they're passionate about, give us your feedback on the river, give us your feedback on things that you like, things that you want to see. That's where we draw a lot of our inspiration from, is the passion from our fans, and we want to continue to deliver on that for months and years to come.
That's terrific. And for anyone who's listening right now and watching the live stream, if they did want to go and give you feedback starting with your early access tomorrow, where can they find those forums?
So do we have we have a website that players can go to, and the URL for that is so we have a Facebook fan page as well, and the best place to get involved. www.facebook.com/FarmVille2. That's where you can start to get some of the conversation going. We also have a blog, and the at what's that? Oh, okay, and we'll share the URL for that in chat.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much, Daryl. I really appreciate your time tonight. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed the first glimpse at the river, the Appaloosa River. Now, don't forget, it is available tomorrow in early access. And then I believe, is the date September 3rd for the wider release, Daryl?
We're looking at rolling it out next week.
Okay, sometime next week then. No hard date on that. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, Daryl, and thanks everyone for following us, participating in the chat, and taking a look at everything. Again, my name's Jim Squires. I'm the editor-in-chief at Gamezebo.com. Come give us a read when you're not playing FarmVille 2, which I'm sure you're about to go do right now.
Cool, and I just want to remind, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Please follow us on Twitter, on Twitch, and on Facebook as well. Again, keep the feedback coming in. We love it.
Perfect.